This program is presented by the Fromm Institute for Lifelong Learning at the University of San Francisco. The Fromm Institute, keeping up with the times no matter when.
So good to have you here. Good afternoon to all of you. In 1941, Gene Krupa, who was the first superstar drummer, remember him? He worked with Benny Goodman's band, and people just love to hear him do that solo on "Sing, Sing, Sing," which is a big hit tune. He formed his own band, and one of the hires that he made was a singer by the name of Anita O'Day. And Anita was quite a character and a good singer. And a couple of things about Anita. Number one, she was a good singer. Number two, she was the first woman who just sort of balked at this pretty girl thing. Remember, I've mentioned a couple of times now in the classes that women would be hired to sing, and they only had a couple of tunes to sing. And otherwise, they would sit on a stool or a chair or something, sometimes a high chair, and they would sit near the drummer just to look pretty. And then they dressed, and then everything was well coiffed. Well, Anita balked at that, and she said she wanted to wear the same attire that the players, the band members, were playing. So she wore pants, and now this is 1941. You didn't see women publicly wearing pants. It just did not happen. So there was Anita O'Day on stage in a suit, and so it was pretty wild stuff. Now, the other thing was that Gene Krupa did was not only to hire Anita O'Day, they used to call her the Jezebel of Jazz. He hired a trumpet player by the name of Roy Eldridge. Roy was really the link between Louis Armstrong and Dizzy Gillespie. Just an outstanding trumpet player out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And he was a black man. There weren't a lot of blacks being hired to work with these big white-led bands at the time. Benny Goodman had done it, and Gene Krupa was there when that happened. So maybe he was influenced by that, and maybe it's something that he would have done on his own anyway. Tommy Dorsey hired one black guy, Cy Oliver, who also was a trumpet player and a singer, and a vocalist and arranger. And that was a strong move. But generally speaking, you didn't find a lot of black players working with those successful white bands. So Roy Eldridge was working with Gene Krupa. And oddly enough, the first hit song that Gene Krupa had in the second year of operation was a tune titled "Let Me Off Uptown," which sort of was a link to Harlem. And so it didn't require this, but the arrangement featured Anita O'Day singing the tune and Roy Eldridge on stage at the same time. That doesn't sound like a big deal. So you might look at it and say, yeah, so what else about that? Well, at that time, it was an outrageous thing to do. Here's a white woman, and she's sort of shuffling around, moving around, singing with this black guy, and he's got his trumpet in his hand. I mean, they're really not they're not hugging and kissing on stage, but it created an uproar. There was a very successful tune, but on the other hand, when they did that on stage, a lot of people were just generally upset. And you look back on it now and you say, wow. But that was the attitude in 1941, 1942. But it was a big hit for Gene Krupa. Moving to the contemporary level, to this day, you don't see a lot of white singers, female singers, working with black musicians on stage. There may be one, sometimes two in the band. Rarely will you see them working with a threesome of black musicians. And then that's usually because of the social attitude that we have in this country. We've had it since the 40s, since that time with Anita O'Day, and all the way up to the present time. It's just something that a lot of people just say, well, I just don't want to deal with it. I can understand that. I was with a band for a couple of years, on and off. It wasn't a full-time traveling band, but we had a singer who was a Kim Novak lookalike. I mean, she really did. If you just looked at her the first time around, maybe the second time, you see that's Kim Novak. And she was an average singer, But the band consisted of 3 black musicians, 2 white when we first started, and then it was 3 and 3. And there were many instances where people just didn't get it. She had to be sleeping with one of the black guys in the band, right? She was actually dating the piano player who was white. And he could have cared less about that. And she generally didn't care. I can't say she didn't care. I think she was learning. She wasn't a great singer, but she was really learning sort of on the curve. And the guy that led the band was a black guy. He was a pretty good instructor, and he also knew an awful lot about lyrics and delivering a message in a tune. So she was just picking up an awful lot of knowledge. But there were instances where people just didn't understand why she was up on the stage with us. And this is a long time after Anita O'Day and Roy Eldridge and Gene Krupa. So that sort of thing has persisted. The singer that we're going to feature today is Annie Ross. Annie Ross was born in England from Scottish parents, came to the United States as sort of a child performer. In fact, one of her big roles was playing the younger sister of Judy Garland in a motion picture. So she had that sort of a background. And she was an interesting singer, lyricist, and really made her name with an act called Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross. As Dave Lambert, John Hendricks, and Annie Ross. And she really caught it. She was most attracted to the sound when she was living in Paris that black musicians were emoting at the time. And so she was branded. And when you start to think about it to this day, is what a tragedy that was. It didn't stop her career, but I think it certainly led to a lot of lonely moments and some very strange things, strange questions in her mind as to what she was doing that was so wrong, because she was infatuated with the music, and then she was really learning as much as she could, and the musicians that she was attracted to were the black musicians who were playing a certain brand of jazz, and that's the way she wanted it. That's what she heard that was attractive to her, and that's what she did. But consequently, I don't know how much it held back her career. I think in the early stages it probably did, but it was a slap in the face to her because there were people that said, "You can't do that. What are you doing out there with all those brothers?" And they didn't call them brothers at the time, but all those black musicians. But that's what she heard, and that's what she wanted to do. And it was something that stuck with her for a long time. And she had a relationship with one of the great jazz drummers. His name is Kenny Clark. And he was one of the guys really out front in the bebop movement, what they call the bebop movement in jazz. And these were the Young Turks. They were really turning things around. Thelonious Monk, Dizzy Gillespie, and that whole group of people. And so she was very attracted to Kenny Clark when he was in France. In fact, he eventually moved over there and stayed there until his death. But and they had a child together, and that was really something. And that was something that could have uprooted her whole life, and probably did for a short period of time, and something that she never quite got past. And she'll talk about that in what we're going to see today. And so I think this is a very interesting story. To me, it's a sad story. It's one of the truly sad ones. Last week we went through the depths with Billie Holiday, and that was a rough one. But the Annie Ross thing grabs me, and maybe it's the way that she describes it, because we're hearing from Annie Ross about her life and the story of her relationships with everybody, including Billie Holiday. So we'll take a break, and we'll probably need to take a break, but try to absorb some of this, and also if you can, stand back and just give today a thought. And how often do you see white female singers working with black bands? Think about that for a minute. And is there some reason beyond just happenstance that you don't see it? So let's take a look at Annie Ross, and we'll also take a break as we go along. Annie Ross.
Annie Ross was just unbelievable. She sounded like a trumpet. Here she is, back then, beautiful and sexy, probably one of the greatest jazz singers of all time.
Born into the Scottish showbiz family that gave us her brother Jimmy Logan, Annie Ross is a jazz legend.
I've heard every singer of any consequence there is. Nobody could have done what Annie did.
My analyst told me, you know that one, that I was right out of my head.
My analyst told me that I was right out of my head. The way he described it, he said I'd be better dead than alive. I didn't listen to his...
She was the one who had always really got it. She swings really hard. That's the bottom line.
I was crazy, but I'm not...
Annie's more like a musician than a lot of singers. She's got diva, whatever that is, but she's one of the cats, like, as a musician.
Oh, Annie's a legend, and should be, and rightfully so. No one's done that before, no one will do it again.
Absolutely brilliant. And a real one-off, too, you know. Nobody's ever done it like her.
She could speak a song better than a lot of people could sing them.
Annie, we're going to get you and the fellows to sing something for us?
As a solo artist, and as part of the vocal trio Lambert, Hendricks and Ross, Annie was loved and admired by the likes of Count Basie, Charlie Parker, and Billie Holiday.
She was the best trumpet section we could have had. There was no better on the planet.
Every night, yeah, every noon, yeah, every sun, yeah, every moon, yeah, every way, yeah, everywhere, yeah, I get blues, yeah, and don't care. Yeah, I run away and hide, but find they follow me there. Run away and hide, but find they follow me there.
Annie is one of the few survivors of the legendary bebop era. Now, for the first time, she tells her own remarkable story. This is Annie Ross, unvarnished, in her own words.
About 12 o'clock noon, and there's a woman sitting at the bar, nobody else, and she wants to talk, but there's no one to talk to. So she just starts telling her story as it comes to her. I don't think anybody had a weirder upbringing than I did. My mother and father were totally stage struck, as were many in our family.
She comes from a very famous show business family, a Scots family, as a matter of fact. Her father told me that he put her on stage when she was 3. She had to come in with her mother, and her mother would sit down somewhere, you know, in the middle of the theater. And her grandfather would do his act, and then he would say, "Can I get a little girl to come up? I'll give them a currant bun if you sing a song."
And I'd sing at the drop of a hat. I mean, there's a story that my mother couldn't find me at a railway station. We were on our way somewhere by train. And she found me in the ladies' room on top of the basin singing for the customers. I was like a precocious midget. My mom and dad wanted me to be a star. Like they used to call me the Scottish Shirley Temple.
You take the handle, and I'll take the load, and I'll give a party where me and my true love will never get again. On the Monday,
For the first 4 years of my life, I lived in Glasgow. And then when I was 4, I was told we were going to go to America. We came over by ship to New York. But we had to go through Ellis Island, and that was very scary. I had an aunt called Ella Logan, and she was there, luckily enough, to claim us.
There's a small hotel with a wishing well. I wish that we were there together.
My aunt was going to Los Angeles to do films. I went with my mother and my aunt to LA. After, I guess, a couple of weeks, my mother left. A lot of people at that time used to say, oh, I'd like to buy that weekend. And I was terrified my mother would sell me. So when she took off and went back to Scotland, I felt like I'd been sold. Let's do ballad. Sing a song of sad young men, glasses full of pride. All the news is bad again. Kiss your dreams goodbye. All the sad young men. I've just lost my ear. Sitting in the bar. Running, what the fuck? Let your gentle light guide them home again. All the sad young men. I grew to have a very acrimonious relationship with my aunt. She was a very complicated lady. And, you know, she was famous, and people were always, I had to be introduced as her daughter, which I wasn't. I didn't really want for anything except love, except roots or family. And gradually, because you know you have to, you remove yourself, and life becomes LA. Memories were of Scotland, but you adapt, and I had to adapt. It was a song contest, and Johnny Mercer was a judge.
Let's fly, baby, let's fly away to land.
I wrote it when I was 14. It was pretty sophisticated.
Love's free and there's no such thing as a mailman, doorbell, telephone.
Let's fly, baby, let's fly away across tropical seas. We'll have fun underneath the sun. So come on, baby, please. And when I wrote songs, it was always about heartbreak. And I guess in my mind, I wasn't a happy kid. And I think that's maybe how I got it out. One day, I was growing up. My aunt said to me, why don't you become a set designer? Because you can't sing. You haven't got the magic. So that affected me. And above all, I wanted her approval, but I couldn't get it. I think in a way, I became a kind of competitor. And I think that didn't sit too well for her. Pack up all my cares to one. 'Cause here I go, and I'm singing low. Bye, 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 blackbird. Where somebody waits for me. Sugar is sweet, so is he. Bye. I got a phone call from this composer, Hugh Martin, and he said, Annie, I'm forming a trio in Paris. Would you like to join? I said, I'm there.
I love Paris in the springtime. I love Paris in the fall. I love Paris.
I flew to Paris, and it was bliss. And I lived in every arrondissement, from the very best to the... I worked in many clubs there, and I met some wonderful people there. Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, James Moody, Kenny Clark, and they were my idols. I totally adored them, and they liked what I did. And it really meshed. I mean, it was wonderful. What I found in Paris was love and acceptance. The French had no qualms about a white girl performing with black musicians, whereas in America, it was very difficult. James Moody had this song, Le Bon Verre. It's without words, very modern. I don't know if Moody couldn't find anyone else to do it, but he called me and I was thrilled.
It was a really great jazz scene in Paris. Wide open and hot as fire.
You know, bebop was such a creative thing. And once my ear got attuned, that's all I wanted to hear. People say to me, what is swinging like? And really, it's a feeling of being all contained in the same bubble. And so you snap your fingers and pat your foot, and you can't not move. The rhythm is very important. I love to swing.
Nice.
You're in a kind of gel, and you all are on the same plane. I really feel blessed at having the facility to do that. I want to be no one but me. I'm in love with a lover who loves me the way I am. I have my faults. He likes my faults. I'm not very bright. Kenny Clark was one of the greatest drummers ever. And we had an affair, which resulted in the birth of my son, Kenny Clark Jr., who was born in Paris. And that was Klug, as he was known. We didn't have enough money, Kenny Clark and I. He got an offer from Dizzy, to come back. There was only enough money for one ticket.
Kenny came off the ship, and in his hand, he had a baby, cloth bassinet. It was blue with white trim, and here was his son.
6 months later, we had enough money to bring me over to New York. I needed somewhere where the baby would be looked after while I was working. And nobody would take what they called a half-breed child. I boarded him at this woman's house, and I got a phone call about 2 in the morning saying, "You come and get this child." I said, "Why?" "He won't stop crying, and you never told me he was half black." I said, "He's his child." Kluge's brother was a railway porter. He lived in Pittsburgh in what they call the projects. So I went and got the baby, and then I had to take him back to Pittsburgh. Kluge's brother said to me, "Don't be taking him and then bringing him back and then taking him again. A child has to have a certain basic."
It can't have been easy.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
With Labor Hendricks or Ross, whenever we played Pittsburgh, we would be visited at wherever we were playing by Charles Spearman, his wife, and Kenny Jr. Annie and her son with the cat. I don't know, they seemed to hit it off really well to me. And they were both low-key, Kenny Jr. and Annie, but yet I somehow sensed that they really got along and they cared for each other.
But he was looked after beautifully. He was loved very much by Kluge's brother and sister-in-law. And he's gorgeous and funny. Now he's got kids. So sweet love, when you speak love, our summer day withers away too soon, too soon. Sweet love, when you speak love.
I don't even know where I got this record. All I know is it says, late in 1952, Annie Ross had the idea to write words to some of the selections in the Prestige catalog. Farmer's Market was one of those chosen because of the musical content and the title suggestion of a plot about an out-of-work musician selling beans to a cool chick in the market who he met.
Once was a girl, she was right from the sticks. Thought she'd go out to the market one day. And hey, we could sure say of the town, she was the toast, really the most. We don't want to boast, but scats of lads would all surround her. City slicker sure would hound her. She walked in the marketplace, and what did she see? Crew cut and cute with a crazy goatee.
He said, "We got string beans, snap beans, lima beans. We got the very kind of beans that I would like to put right in your pressure cooker, pretty baby." And it ends with crazy scenes, blame it on the beans.
Blame it on the beans.
Dave and I had heard Twisted and Farmer's Market. Annie was famous before we were, singing what now is known as vocalese.
You're putting words and you're singing the instrumental solos that you're kind of relating to an instrumental concept of phrasing.
My analyst told me that I was right out of my head. He described it. He said I'd be better dead than alive. I didn't listen to his jive. I knew all along he was all wrong, and that he thought I was crazy, but I'm not.
I won the New Star Award. They loved what I did with Twisted.
Twisted is a paean. It's a hymn. You know, it's got to do with her childhood.
I had a brain, it was the thing, so just let them laugh at me when I refused to ride on all those double-decker buses, all because there was no driver on the top.
I was writing about my aunt, and one night I actually sang. My aunt always told me.
My aunt always told me that I was right out of my head, but I said, dear doctor, I think that it's you instead, 'cause I have got a thing that's unique and new. It proves that I'll have the last laugh on you, 'cause instead of one head, I got two. And you know, two heads are better than one.
Joe Glazer was the real hard-nosed agent. There was Louis Armstrong's agent, Billie Holiday's agent. They called me up at about 8:30 in the morning, he did, and said, this is Joe Glazer. He said, I want you to get up to the Apollo for the first show. I said, okay. So just before I put the phone down, I said, excuse me, what am I doing at the Apollo Theater? He said, you're replacing somebody. I said, who? He said, Billie Holiday.
A cigarette that bears a lipstick's traces, an airline ticket to romantic places. Still my heart has wings.
This was my dressing room. You would spray roach spray on the walls, the linoleum walls, and they'd go next door and come back. Because next door would spray, back they'd come. Let's see. Duke went out and he said, ladies and gentlemen, sorry to inform you that our star, Billie Holiday, will not be appearing at the first show. So a lot of people got up and walked out. Always at the Apollo at the first show, you get the real hard nuts who put their feet up on the seats in front of them and say, okay, what can you do? Well, thank God I was doing very modern stuff like Twisted and Farmer's Market, and it worked. And I came off and went to the wings, and Lady had been there watching me. And she just held her arms out, and we hugged one another and cried, and Duke came off and said, you two beautiful bitches, come out here and take your bow.
Every morning find me moaning.
Yes, Lord.
'Cause of all the trouble I see.
Yes, Lord.
Life's a losing gamble to me.
Yes, Lord.
Cares and woes have got me moaning.
Yes, Lord.
Every evening find me moaning.
Yes, Lord.
I'm alone and crying the blues.
Yes, Lord.
I'm so tired of paying these dues.
Yes, Lord.
Everybody knows I'm moaning.
Yes, Lord. Lord, I spend plenty of days and nights alone with my grief, alone with my grief.
When she was with Lambert, Hendricks and Ross, I mean, she was singing all the lead trumpet parts. I mean, her range was astonishing. You know, I mean, she was carrying the whole brass section, you know, and doing it brilliantly. I mean, it was just fantastic. Nobody else could do that in those days, only her and John Hendricks.
Those weird designs, they only show what's going on in weirder minds. 'Cause when you doodle, when your noodles fly up the line, every little thing that you write, just conceive how they might be a thought that you captured while copping a wink. Doodling takes you beyond what you see, then you draw what you think.
They became one of the hottest acts in this country. I mean, Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, my God, you know.
The stuff she did with Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, I mean, it's fantastic. Maybe she's a bit above the general public's head in that sense, you know.
Halloween spooks outside my window.
Halloween spooks outside my window. And then she does, they all do a part. They scat. Dave Lambert does, he does a ghost scatting. And then John Hendricks does an owl or something, scatting. And then when she comes on, she scats like a witch. Clever, great, wonderful.
She saw and heard what was perfect for her. And she stepped right into it and never left. And she's still here now.
Getting back together with John is getting back together with John.
New York, I dig. New York is big. I flip my wing. By the street, I dig.
Our voices are not the same range as they were because John is 90 or almost 90, and I'm going to be 81.
I beg your pardon, baby, but I can't go my day. But I like the way you're talking. Chicks all pretty, come down with it. So tell me about this avenue. I like the way it's moving.
Well, there are some songs we can't do because the range is so high. So we do the ones we can do.
Ah, whew, that's delicious. I'll have another glass of that.
She was the only real vocalist of the group. Dave wasn't really a vocalist, he was an arranger. And his main instrument was the pen. And John was a poet who I think just dabbled in music, but was really musical talent.
Dave says, why don't you put some words to 10 kind of bassy things, and we'll see if we can sell them. And I said, yeah, are you kidding? Do you know how long it takes to write one band arrangement? You know the detail, and you have to tell a story. It has to have a beginning, a middle, an end, and an end. The horns have to be the cast of characters. You must have a plot. It must all fuse together in a dramatic way, like a play. It's very difficult to write 10 of those. And Dave says, well, what else you got to do?
Two for the blues, baby and me. Two for the blues, blue as can be. Two for the blues, couldn't agree.
had a little tape. And I called Miles and I said, what do you think of this? And after about half a second, he said, wait a minute, Mingus, pick up the phone. So there was a click on the other end. Miles said, listen to this shit. And he played it for Mingus. They just went crazy. They just went crazy.
Then when it was played back to us, Annie, Dave, and I sat down and cried like babies. We wept. And I can say to this day, I have never heard anything so beautiful in my life.
That's definitely John and Dave, and I guess Annie too. That's Dave. That's patented Dave Lambert sketching.
Dave was beautiful.
You remember we were in Chicago, I think, and we had a little rehearsal or something, and Dave came and gave us each a gift of one of them little miniature pipes, and he filed off the bottom so it wouldn't tip over. I remember he passed them out to all of us.
I remember Dave in his apartment taking out a brick out of the fireplace so he could stash
a Rooney. And he was a free spirit, no doubt about it, you know. But at the same time, I thought she was really sophisticated. But yeah, she liked to hang out. She definitely liked to hang out just like everybody else. It seems like she never loses her cool. She never did with Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, I know that. No matter how many times Dave or John would fly off the handle about who knows what. And she just kept her cool about it all the time.
You get with somebody and it's like a relationship. Sometimes you really think, I can't do it, I can't go on.
All right.
How you doing?
So what's going on?
I don't know. We're in the dressing room over here now, and so we're just waiting for John. He's shaving, and I mean it's 8 o'clock now, so I guess we're gonna go on a lot.
He's impossible. She's impossible.
Are you ready?
This is like a family. What I was saying, this common bond, and dysfunctional because there's 50 or 60 years of static, crap, bullshit, whatever you want to call it.
Whoa!
Annie Ross!
John Hendricks!
It's very hard and a very rare thing if you're going to get those two to work together at this point. For a number of reasons. They don't want to be boxed into that repertoire and that range where their voices aren't anymore and all this. It's something they did that was great a long time ago. They'd love to revisit it, but they don't want to have to be that.
Later the waiter had me arrested, took me to Bellevue where I was tested. Had me a doctor, a program my noodle, before it was half done, started to drool. Showed them his results that finger finding out. Let's do your finger, little way, little way. We just doodle all day. Whoa!
Annie Ross!
Annie? Hey, baby, what's happening? He's the best jazz singer in the whole world sitting over there. Annie Ross.
We started booking Lenny Bruce as opening act for us in the Village Vanguard. And that's when Dave and I first came across Lenny Bruce, you know.
It was Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, Terry Gibbs, and Lenny Bruce. And that was the whole package tour. We had arrived early, and it was maybe dinner time, and the concert was at night. And Terry Gibbs came and knocked on my door, and he said, "Oh, I just came from Annie's room." I said, "Oh." And he said, "Yeah, I knocked on the door," and they said, "Who is it?" I said, "Oh, it's Terry Gibbs." And they said, "Wait a minute." And then the door opens, and there's Lanny standing there in one of Annie's negligees.
I met him in Chicago through friends, and I told him a joke, and he loved it. And that was the beginning. He was really funny. And very warm and tender. He was very special, Lenny. And crazy. He would put "I love you" on an airsick bag and mail it to me. And that was so sweet.
You don't remember a telegram he sent you once night? "Dear, stop. Annie, stop. You have the most beautiful stop pussy stop in the world."
Oh, lovely. That was Annie.
Was there a change in Annie after she met Lenny?
Yes. She had somebody to get high with, you know.
Well, I mean, there are so many people who I never would have believed would have used heroin. And I found out, well, look, you just can't stereotype it. It's no telling who will become addicted.
The bebop era seemed to introduce the massive use of heroin, as well as the other drugs, you know.
Someone described heroin as a warm blanket. And I think that's what it was to a lot of musicians. It took away a lot of fear, a lot of hurt. I had a lot of pain in my life. And at one point I said, that's all I want to do. And that's the way I want to live my life. God, when I think of it now.
It never helped anybody play any better, that's for sure. Yeah. The problem was, I think, if you didn't have it, you couldn't play at all.
Annie missed a couple gigs. She missed a couple cues at the Apollo. I said, well, we're gonna try to find a place and take a cure. We found a place in Switzerland, and when we got some time off, we sent Annie there. And the only thing about it was it seemed to have worked, except being back on the scene, she went right back into the same thing.
I was nuts. I was on drugs.
Let's take a little break.
I didn't want to do anything except.
So we'll come back to I was on drugs. Yeah. Annie Ross.
Thank you.
So we'll take a little break. Any questions, any comments before we break?
No, not at the moment, Sonny.
Oh, okay, good. All right, well, let's take a quick break and we'll come back to Annie Ross.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
You're very welcome. Thank you. We'll be back in 5, folks.
Yeah, I'm ready anytime.
Okay, thanks, Sonny.
Well, we're back. Any questions, any comments?
Yes, indeed. We did have a couple come through.
Okay.
Marlisa says, loved Hendricks, Lambert, and Ross because they sing bebop. I saw them at the Blue Note quite a few times. Are they still alive?
No, they're all gone now. Dave Lambert was the first to leave. And then John Hendricks stuck around for a long time. And Annie Ross just died 2 years ago. She lasted till the age of 89, which is pretty amazing. And John Hendricks was past 90. He died a short while before her. But so they're all gone. All three of them are gone. And they did other things. It wasn't just bebop. They did their first album that was such a big hit was Sing a Song of Basie. So they had all those wonderful Count Basie arrangements, and none of those were bebop. But they were in and out, and they did all the jazz hits, and it was quite an act. I have to admit that I booked them one time, and Annie Ross was not with them. Her replacement was a lady named Yolanda Vaughan. So it was Lambert, Hendricks, and Vaughan. And my boy, that cleaned me out. It was an expensive act. It just didn't draw quite that well. And man, it was a tough lesson. Because you not only had the three of them, you had to have a rhythm section. So it was a minimum of 6 musicians, sometimes even 7 musicians that you had to hire. And boy, it just wiped me out. Much as I enjoyed it, it just didn't pay off. Any more questions, comments?
Yes. Chris Davis writes, why do you think that so many musicians and singers turn to drugs? Is it loneliness, solace? Any thoughts?
It's a combination of a lot of things. I almost did the heroin thing one time, and my close friend in this group that I was working with, the quartet, was a bass player, and so we talked about we were working with a couple of guys who used it, and so we talked about it a little bit with those guys. We were much younger, by the way. So then the two of us were talking one day, and said, let's give it a try one time. So that we were gonna, because the guys were always saying, man, you guys want a little taste, and so we'd back off. We're both college guys, and so this particular day we decided we were going to try it. So we the guys would get together sometimes in their car, or other times. This particular night they were going to do in this supply room, a janitorial supply room. So we're all sort of crowded in this little room, and I was up against the wall next to this pretty funky mop. This mop had not been cleaned. I'll never forget that. So the guys are passing this needle, and this is during the time that nobody knew any better. So they're all passing the needle on. So I was standing next to my friend, the bass player, but I was leaning really close to this mop. I remember that. So by the time he took his little shot, and I was so overcome with this odor from this mop, and also I was having second thoughts about trying this stuff. I said, no, I think I'll pass. So I did. And unfortunately for me, the following day, my friend, the bass player, was really sick. He was sick enough that I had to take him to the hospital. And he came down with a terrible case of yellow jaundice. And that was as close as I ever got. And then that same night that I passed on taking the shot, that rather interesting thing is kind of a funny story happened. We were playing in this little club where the police used to come in all the time to check the restrooms and make sure nobody's in there shooting up or smoking. Even if you smoke weed, you're going to bust and go to jail. So we were playing this tune, and these 2 cops come in, and which is a regular thing each night. And so one of them quickly goes back to the restrooms, which is right past the bandstand. And I turn to my friend, the bass player. He's playing right next to me. I'm the drummer, and I see the saxophone player out front, but I'm not hearing any sound. I'm looking at it. It's just the back end of this guy, and it looks like he's playing, but I'm not hearing anything. So I said to my friend Jim, I said, "Do you hear anything?" And so he didn't say anything right away because he's loaded, And I said, "Do you hear anything?" And I'm trying to play. And the 2 cops are in there, So I'm thinking, oh man, we're all going to jail, And I finally kind of look around the saxophone player. He's fingering the horn, but there's no sound coming out. So one of the 2 cops is sitting at the bar, watching the act, and I'm panicking, I'm sweating, and I'm thinking, oh man, this is it. So the one cop who's checking the restrooms comes out, and the other guy who's sitting at the corner stool at the bar kind of leans over and says, "Far out." And then they left. And I thought, what? I almost fainted. I said, okay. Any more questions or comments?
Oh boy, we're laughing here. Linda, go right ahead. You can unmute yourself.
I just wanted to share a story because I was such a big Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross fan.
Yes.
When I went to college in the Boston area around 1959, maybe 58, I went and saw them repeatedly at Storyville, and it was so exciting and wonderful. And then I was working at Stanford, and John was the resident musician for Stanford Jazz Year, and I got to know his family, and this was all so great. And then sort of lost touch with them for a while, and then John and Annie were at the Blue Note in New York doing one of their many getting back togethers.
Yes.
And my husband and I took a bunch of young people and we were telling them how fabulous they were. And they were terrible. Oh my God. Nobody had any voice left. I bought albums, CDs for each of the people that we brought so that they could see what they were like in their prime, because they were so great.
I saw her at the NEA Awards, and when she was given the Jazz Master Award, and she did it. I forgot what it was that night, but it was masterful. And this was just, I think this is around probably 2010 or something like that. So she didn't have much of it, but her selection was just perfect for that award night. Good to see you, Linda. Any more questions, comments?
No, just Linda had wrote, Dave died first around 1967, as I recall. John died in 2017, and Annie a few years ago. And she has great memories, as we know. Yeah, thanks, Linda, for sharing.
Exactly. Okay, we'll go back to Annie Ross, and then we still have some more time left to talk.
Okay, great. Here we go. Do you see something there?
Yes, see John Hendricks. Yes.
Great. Okay, I'm going to back it up just a little.
Okay, all right.
About right there. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Thanks.
Black kid.
Okay.
Yep.
In my life.
Yes.
And at one point I said, that's all I want to do. And that's where I want to live my life. God, when I think of it now.
It never helped anybody play any better. That's for sure. The problem was, I think, if you didn't have it, you couldn't play at all.
Annie missed a couple gigs. She missed a couple cues at the Apollo. I said, well, we're going to try to find a...
It was nuts. I was on drugs. I didn't want to do anything except take drugs. And I knew if I didn't get off and I didn't stop, I'd probably die. And I wasn't ready to die. Jim was a big, big brother. And he was my helper, and he looked after me and took me to a little village called Fintry that is so beautiful, and he rented a house, and I learned to fish, and we had a vegetable garden that was great. And it was just beautiful, but I had a big task. I had to stop doing what I was doing and get myself together. And one night my brother said to me, I can't help you anymore. That's it. If you want to kill yourself. And I think having the props knocked from under me, because if I knew what made me stop using drugs, I would bottle it and sell it. But I knew I had to do it, and I did. I did without any help. I hated Scotland when I first came back, but that was the association, I think. Now I love Scotland. The reason I love it is because of my brother, Jimmy Logan. He was my best friend. I was so proud to have him as a brother. I admired him tremendously. And he had great compassion. And I would have done anything for him, because he was so good to me. Country is a healing place. It was the most peaceful place. You want to get in on the act? Huh? I saw very few people. I really was kind of secular here. And I read a lot and tried to sort my life out a lot. I'm pretty strong. I wasn't raised with my family, so I had to really put forth effort to remain sane. And I did to an extent, I guess.
Go back to the end.
Sit down on the bench.
Oh, is that what he wanted us to do?
No, but we will. And one night, we stood about here. And he said to me, well, I've got to go back to work. I just can't do it anymore. You're on your own. And I said, okay, and I think that's what got me better. And I had to get out and start living again.
I'm in the mood for love, simply because you're near me. Funny, but when you're near me, I'm in the mood for love. There I go, there I go, there I go, there. Let there be you, let there be me, let there be oysters.
I've never met a better man than Dave. The love of anybody, but especially someone you love, is invaluable. And I've been lucky because I have a wonderful man.
Every time I aim my arrows at the sun, they always miss their mark, just like
leaving just a lonely little lady in the dark.
Leaving? I don't
Yeah.
Okay, there I go down the hill again, but
every time I feel a little glow, I always get a little shock. Every time I stick my little chin out, always get a little knock.
See that over there?
Yeah.
That used to be Annie's room.
So that's where it was.
That's where it was. It was the first club in Covent Garden.
A new type of club is springing up. Jazz singer Annie Ross gives her name to such a club in Covent Garden.
Wow.
You're gonna miss your baby one of these long rainy days. Well, goodbye, 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 goodbye.
This used to be like a private bar with a window that you could see the show from, and you could talk. So that was convenient. Nah, they've changed it all. Opening night, they were standing around the corner waiting for the club to get in, and we had had so many seats booked, and at the last minute, Judy Garland walked in with about 5 people.
Basically, she really fronted it, you know what I mean? And I just put up the dough.
She was there, and she was on the gig and taking care of business. She did beautifully.
We had everybody. We had stars from all over. It was the place to go to.
They were making Lawrence of Arabia. Peter O'Toole came in the club. Annie brought the whole cast from the film set back to the club, and they were all completely out of it. And O'Toole came over to Tony Kins's drum kit and picked up a stick and started playing on his cymbal in the middle of the gig.
I said, hey, cut that out, cut that out. He stopped for a bit, and played a bit more, and he'd do it again. Bang, bang. It had nothing to do with what we were playing.
Tony sort of told him to F off.
And he said to me, do you know who I am? I'm Peter O'Toole.
And Tony said, I don't give a fuck if you're Lawrence of Arabia, get off my drum kit.
One night down there, we had on the stage Duke Ellington's brass section, who were playing at the festival all that night. Tony Bennett was at the Albert Hall. He came down. He was big pals with Annie. Oscar Peterson came in, and Jimmy Smith, the organist, and I put a lot of them on the stage at the same time for a jam, and it must have gone on for an hour and a half. And in the meantime, we started songs, and I was getting up and singing the song, and he was getting up. That's the greatest night of jazz I've ever heard in my life.
People that had the money wanted to make it more of a gambling club, and instead of the wonderful whitewashed walls, they wanted red velvet and gold and gambling. And so we left.
The Beatles came along, and the jazz scene really went downhill.
Using the phone booth, making a few calls, doodling weird things, using the booth walls. Got me a big date, waiting for my chick, putting her face on so she can look slick. I enjoy procrastinating cause I'm busy while I'm waiting, doodling away. Sitting and dining, dinner beginning, started designing, using the linen. Talking to my date, doodling my bit. Waiter got salty, told me to please quit. Told the waiter, don't be dizzy, can't you see I'm very busy.
Yeah, Annie's more like a musician than a lot of singers in a lot of ways. Like, she can tell you what she wants, and you don't roll your eyes. You say, wow, she really knows what she's talking about, even though she doesn't use a lot of musical terminology.
She cannot lie to you. If I had a nickel for every singer I went to work with, I didn't believe a word they were singing to me. I could retire now in a nice big house in California. If you just don't find people with Annie's kind of honesty.
Well, I mean, she's so hip. You know? I mean, she's had all that wealth of experience and knowledge which she puts into her music, and it comes from the original source, you know. And everything she touches is full of absolutely great jazz, you know.
No one here will love or understand me. Ooh, the
hard luck stories they all hand me. Come on and make my bed. Come on.
The one thing that always sticks in my mind most of all about Annie was how professional she was. You know, she was, I mean, she used to love to party, probably still does, but every time we did a show, she was right on it every single time. Total professional.
Okay.
The list that we have made is this one. What do you think of it? It's this afternoon's project.
And also Blackbird. And also
Blackbird. We rehearsed it. Well, we go way back now. I mean, that's weird because she had already had a bunch of lives by the time I met her, so we've never succeeded in really annoying each other.
The mere idea of you, that longing here for you. You'll never know how slow the moments go till I'm near to you. I see your face in every flower, your eyes in stars above. It's just the thought of you, the very thought of you. Oh, my love, oh, my love.
I have arrhythmia, which is irregular heartbeat. Or I got arrhythmia. I got to Glasgow and I went to the hospital and they said, you know, maybe you'll go home tomorrow, maybe not. And I said, I have to. I have to go into the city. I've got a show on Friday night. So finally, after much pestering and pressure, they said, okay, you can go. I was told something that Sean Connery said, where he said, life is like a play, three-act play. The first act is great, the second act is great, and the third act is shit. And I really believe that. It's a drag. It's part of life, but it's a drag to say, what did you say? Or, what does that say? Anything like that. That's not a lot of fun, the golden years.
She comes from a tough clan, I'll tell you that.
Woo! She hits the stage, she gets her makeup on, and she's ready to go, and she is alive.
Before I go on, I say to myself, I'm so happy to be here. Even if it is a little ironic, and I'm feeling very tired or whatever. I just feel that, yeah, let's hit it.
I'm traveling light because my man is gone. So from now I'm traveling light. He said goodbye and took my heart away.
I've never gone with anything that is the big popular belief. I think I was a bit of a rebel. And I always was searching.
So from today, I'm traveling light.
Bandstand, stage, lights, audience, that's home for her. I mean, ever since she was a little kid, that's maybe the closest thing, that she's home and she's alive and she's ready to swing.
No one but me and my memories. Starry night.
That's the great thing, the healing thing about music is that you can feel like shit and go on and do your thing and you feel better.
Until then I'm traveling. Until then I'm traveling light. Bye, bye. One, two, three, four.
Quite a story. Quite a story. Annie Ross.
Indeed. Wow, what a story.
Any questions, comments?
Not any right at the moment. Folks, feel free to raise your digital hand or type them in the chat. I just thought she had a great attitude and a long career as a performer.
Yeah. And I think that she probably survived because of show business, and also I love the fact that she met this guy, you know, toward the tail end there, and so that they had their happy moments, and he left before she did, but nevertheless she had some peace.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions, folks? I have a couple, but I'm waiting for everybody else.
Okay. I don't know if I fully answered that question about the use of heroin earlier on. Yes, it did make some people feel better, and it was partially escapism, but also I think that a couple of things happened. Number one, a lot of younger musicians felt that if they used that, they were going to play better, they were going to perform better. Same thing with singers. The other thing is that some of the people I knew who had been engaged in the use of heroin and also were strung out, as we used to say, felt that they were strong enough to just get rid of it whenever they wanted to do it. And of course, they were all fooled. I don't know anyone who really actively got into the use of heroin who survived it that way. But it was interesting, the number of people who were rather intelligent and just thought, well, this is a great feel-good thing. And when I get tired of it, I'll just stop. Well, it didn't work that way in most cases. I knew people who just periodically would we used to call it joy pop. They would joy pop. They take a little shot of it, and then maybe a few weeks later take another one, and they seem to survive it. But you couldn't really do that every day. And then there are people that I know even to this day who still smoke weed that way. It's just, I mean, they get up in the morning and it's just, and they take a shot of that, and they can get the car, they can drive, or they get on municipal railways. And I guess that's a pretty good feeling. I think that I would probably miss all my stops you know, if I got on a bus and loaded. So, but anyway, the different strokes for different folks, as we say. Anything?
No, not now. Oh wait, here we go.
Okay.
What about Ray Charles? Did he go back to heroin?
No, he didn't go back, but he was a pretty sad case there for quite a while, and he was arrested a couple of times, but no, he did not go back, and he's one of the cases of somebody who overcame the use of heroin, and for a person who was really strung out. I can understand that a bit more for a blind person, as we know that Ray Charles was blind, and so the use of the heroin must have been something. And he seemed to see everything. It was pretty amazing if you're around this guy. And I did hire him a couple of years before he became such a giant that I couldn't touch him anymore. But he saw everything. It was just kind of amazing. You know, if a door opened where you're in a room talking with him, he had a pretty good idea how people looked who came into the room. And that really used to get me. I used to think, wow, I don't know how he does that, but he did, especially with women. He could always. He could pinpoint the most attractive woman in a group of women. There could be 4 women, and then he would pinpoint without. Of course, we knew he couldn't see, but he knew which one was most attractive, physically attractive. So yeah, but so raise the case in point. He overcame it. Anything else?
How about her son? Do we know much about him?
No, we don't. Except what she said that he also had children. So beyond that, I know nothing about her son, where he lives presently or anything. I don't know.
Yeah, having an interracial son at that time must have been pretty challenging.
Yeah, it was a tough thing, and especially with her trying to work nights and so on as a musician and entertainer. That's an extra strain, of course. And it's interesting the way that she described it. You know, there just weren't a lot of words that she could apply to that situation. You could just see that. Well, that's the way it is, you know. And it's too bad that it was that way. But there's no way that she could have survived trying to raise a child and live the kind of life that she was living. And also the use of heroin, it just would not have worked. She would have lost custody of him in a minute. And I don't know why. Kenny Clark remained in France. He went back to France, the drummer and father, and stayed there for quite a while. So I don't know if he remarried, or in fact, they never married. So I don't know if he married over there or what his personal circumstances were.
Right. Thank you. We have another question here. Did Clark stay in the son's life?
That I don't know. I don't know if he did. That's why I was just saying I don't know. I know that he moved back to Paris and remained there and was very popular, but I don't know if he married while he was over there and had another family. I just don't. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that he had done that because he had a lot of years to stay there, and he was revered in France. They put him on a pedestal where he deserved to be, and it's just, I lived over there for a while, but it's interesting how they regard the artists, especially the American artists. And here, you know, the people are scuffling and going through all this lack of recognition and lack of appreciation. And over there, from the time they get off the plane, same thing in Japan. You know, it's just, they're like gods and goddesses over there, and it's quite a transition for a lot of entertainers, and they go to a place like France and just say, man, this is it. This is what I worked for all these years, and it's pretty. They're missing something. I know that the entertainers that I knew over there felt that they were missing the American culture, and they wanted to get back. But in the meantime, they were not going to come back and go to the back of the bus and go through that strange nonsense that people had to go through. Any other questions, comments?
Well, that's why Josephine Baker was so successful in France too, for the same reason.
Yeah. Josephine Baker was just a queen over there. She was really the first American superstar, a black American superstar. But she had to go to France to achieve that, and it wasn't happening here for her. And and when you get right down to it, her act wasn't that great. but what she was doing was so highly appreciated over there, and they did treat her like a goddess.
Yeah, several years ago at the Turner Classic Film Festival, they had a movie that she made over there in France, where she run a nightclub, and she brought two couples together that their parents didn't want them to be together. Kind of a cute movie, but it showed Josephine Baker in her nightclub.
I haven't seen that. I bet that would be interesting. And she did return to the United States a couple of times, but remember she was awarded the Croix de Gras. Is that what they call it, the Croix de Gras? The French award for heroism and so on. It's the highest award that a French citizen, Croix de Guerre. Thank you. The highest medal that a French citizen could be awarded. So she got that, and that was for a wartime activity.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
That's all that came through.
Okay. So I was going to attack Anita O'Day, not attack Anita O'Day, but try to explain. We've had a couple of things that have just been pending. Peggy Lee, I haven't gotten back to her. Anita O'Day, I was going to do a little short interview thing with her today. I don't think we have enough time for that today, but we'll try to get to that. And remember, next Monday, no class. Indigenous Day is next Monday, and then we'll come back. So that'll be the 16th that we return. So if you don't have any other questions, no questions, no comments. That's it.
Oh, thanks. Someone says again, who is next, Sonny?
Lena Horne. Lena Horne is next.
Boy,
so sort of the other side of the coin, and it's sort of an interesting story because you've got Annie Ross today and her relationship with Kenny Clark, and then Lena Horne with her white husband, and so that's very interesting, and her attitude about that and civil rights as well as her career. So I think it'll work very, very well. It seems to fit.
Great.
Thank you so much, Sonny, and it's so great to see you laugh like you did about your own story. And it's just
yeah. When I think about the guy. I was so frightened that night. I just thought, oh no, man, I just knew we were going to jail. Then the cop says, far out, man. Okay, see you guys.
Right.
16th.
Great.
Take care.
See you in 2. Bye, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye, Sonny. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks, Carla.
Wow.
Thanks, Linda.
Oh, love it. Just love your stories, Sonny. They're because you've been there, you've lived it.
Yeah,
it's just so wonderful to hear those stories. Keep them up.
Okay, I'll do what I can, Linda. Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Bye, everyone.